Going on, everyone? I got a request to make a video, so I was gonna make a video of one of Ray's games. Before I did that, I wanted to kind of get you guys' attention on this thing called Puzzle Battle, which I think is pretty fun and will definitely be helpful in improving your pattern recognition and tactics. So yeah, let me show you how to get there first. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put our mouse over this. It sort of looks like like puzzle pieces. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that, but there's like it's like an interlocking puzzle pieces. And then we're gonna go to puzzle battle. And then yeah, so there's you could challenge your friends. So if you just type in if Ray types in like Kimmy's name, for example, or Kimmy types in Ray's name, you can send a challenge, and then this goes for all the students, of course. I'm not gonna challenge anyone specifically. I'm just gonna do a random 3 minute. So I figured I'll put myself on the spot here and see how I can do under pressure here. So it looks like here we have black to move in. So we're gonna capture the bishop, and then here we have a back rank, a possible back rank checkmate. This one is a back rank checkmate. So here we have white to move and win. So we have a back rank checkmate here, and then here we have another back rank checkmate. So it gets a little bit harder as you go along. So this one looks a bit wild. So here we just take the rook with another back rank checkmate. Here we have a fork. So here we're going to fork the king and the rook. Here we have another back rank checkmate coming up. Okay, here we have another. Do we have a back rank checkmate here? What is going on here? Okay, here we don't have a back rank checkmate. So what are we doing? Oh, so here we have this check. That doesn't look right. Okay, that looked a bit weird. So here there's a pin on the A file. So we're gonna take the queens first. Nope, we're gonna take the bishop first. Okay, that was my fault. So that was not very good. So here we're going to give a check first, and now we're gonna take the knight. So I gotta speed up a little bit, or this is gonna be pretty bad. So here we have two pieces attacking the queen. So let's give that a go. Here do we have a fork? We have queen here. We have rook to c8. Looks good. Okay, so let's see if we can speed this up a little bit because this is going slightly on the slow side. So yeah, I don't. Okay, here we're gonna pick up the rook on a4 square. So here we have a free bishop, I think. And then yeah, here we take there. I'm not sure what happens if they had a different move where it just looked a bit more challenging. So here we just have a free piece, it looks like, and then here we have another free. Yeah, then we take there and then we win the bishop. So here we can go check, and then we have a checkmate on f7, which is nice. Here we can go knight takes. I don't know about this one. Knight takes here, and then we just take the bishop. Okay, simple enough. Here, what do we want to do? We want to. Yeah, this one we have to give a check here, and then we go here and here, so we have another mate. All right, so now we're gonna go. So it's black to move. Okay, so here we have a checkmate in one. Okay, that one I got a bit confused whose turn it was to move. So here we want to move force the rook to. Oh, I see. So we're gonna go here, here, and now there's no more pin. So what's going on here? Here we have a check on this square, and then here we have a checkmate. So what's going on? So here we could take here, and then we have a knight fork. Here we can. So we don't want to take because then we're going to lose our rook. So I think we have to go. Nope, I guess not there. Okay, I missed something. So here we're going to push, and then we're not going to take back. We're going to push here. So it looks like I got a little bit of a lead. So here we're going to go f2, I believe, and now we're going to go e6. Yeah, this one I've seen before, to be honest. So yeah, here we could take here, and then we're going to take the knight on d4 because the knight's not protected anymore. So here it looks like we want to take advantage of the open g file, I believe. Although I'm a little worried about if queen takes, and then yeah, this is a bit suspect. So now, now we don't take the queen right away. We're going to take with check first, and then we'll take the queen. So now we're going to play here, push. Okay, so I got that one. That was tough. It's kind of interesting doing these. Of course, it's about solving the puzzle as quickly as you can, but a lot of it comes down to having like a really fast mouse, which I think I have like a decent mouse, but it's not like a fantastic mouse by any stretch. And yeah, the ability to move the mouse around really quickly helps quite a bit when doing these. I felt like I was a tad slow during some of the puzzles, but all in all, 26 is not a terrible score. All right, cool. Let's go to the game though. So I just wanted to show everyone how the puzzle battle went, and I wanted to show off a little bit, to be honest. And but yeah, now we'll go to Ray's game here. So let me pull up the analysis board, and then I'm gonna add the game. So hold on one second. I think I gotta move this really quickly. All right, so it looks like Ray had the black pieces in this game. No, no. Okay, take that back. He had the white pieces. I briefly looked at the game, but I don't by any stretch have a good memory of exactly what happened. All right, so here Ray played e4. So yeah, e4 is according to Bobby Fischer, this is the best by test. He liked e4 the best. E4 and d4 are the two most common moves. The only thing I want to point out here is after d4, I want you guys to start getting the habit of trying to push the c pawn because you want to put a lot more pressure on d5 if possible. After you play e4 though, you almost never push the. There's some variations, but not many where you push the pawn to c4. Typically, if you do move the c pawn at all in these variations, you're going to move the pawn to c3 and put some pressure on the d4 square. So here we had e5 by black, and then yeah. So once again, we have this very symmetrical structure. They're controlling the d4 square with their pawn. White's controlling the d5 square, and both sides are able to develop a couple of their pieces now if they choose to. So the queen and the dark square bishop for black can move, and then the light square bishop and the queen can move for white. So then we had d4 from Ray. So yeah, I like that Ray's kind of mixing up his play a little bit. This is called the center game, and then we learned a gambit called the Danish gambit, which I'm not going to go into like great detail here, but something like this. I think we looked at this in one of the classes. I don't think that Ray and Kimmy have looked at this opening yet, but I know that some of the students we looked at this possibility already. And yeah, what do I want to say about this? I just want to say that when we talk about gambits, the purpose of a gambit is to give up pieces to get a little bit better development. So if we look, we have the two bishops are really doing a good job of controlling these diagonals, and also we can see that that white has two pieces developed, and they also have like a lot easier development for the other pieces. Like this knight can get developed to d2 or c3 rather quickly, and black is going to have to spend a move before they can ever get the light square bishop developed. So so you can see that like why white gave up some material here is just to get faster development. But yeah, let's go back to the game here. So after d4, black could have just taken the pawn, but they went knight f6 here. And here Ray played knight f3, which I think is a fine move. He also could have considered just taking the pawn here and attacking the knight, and then something like this could get a bit tricky right away. So I think maybe like something like queen to d5, and I don't know exactly who's better right now, to be honest, but it's a definitely an interesting position. And also we could do something like bishop to c4. The idea behind bishop c4 is, let's say black plays bishop to c5, and now black has two attackers on the f2 square, and we only have one defender. The cool thing about this position for white is we actually don't have to defend the pawn right away. We have this nice intermediate move. Bishop takes f7 check. And the idea here is we're winning a pawn as white. And if the black king can no longer castle, even if it doesn't take the bishop, the king will have to move. Let's just say they do take the bishop though. Now we have this cool queen to d5 check, which is a fork. So here we'll be attacking the king and the knight. And then wherever the king moves, let's say the king goes to, there's several squares. Let's just say it goes to e8. Here we'll just take the knight, and I think that I think white is better here because the black king is not able to castle. The material's even, but the black king is gonna have a hard time finding safety. The white queen is quite active already, and this I think this bishop isn't too big of a problem for white in this position. So let's say, for example, they play something like rook f8, and once again the idea is they're trying to gang up on the f2 pawn again. And remember, the f2 pawn is the weakest pawn for white because only the king's protecting it. But here we have a really nice move. Just a very simple move for white. I think we just moved the knight to f3. And so remember, when your opponent is attacking something, sometimes you don't even have to move that piece or protect it. You can just block the either the diagonal or in this case the file. So here we have the knight blocking the rook's path to f2. So this is a really convenient way for white to defend the f2 pawn because now the rook is not attacking that square anymore. And then next turn, white can probably castle depending on what black does here. And then I think that white should have no problems at all in this variation. So yeah, let's go back to the game though. So here Ray did play knight f3, which is a perfectly fine move. I actually play this opening myself from time to time. Not from this move order, from a slightly different move order, but the position is exactly the same. And that's called a transposition in chess. So whenever you reach the same position from a different move order, it's called a transposition. So here we're defending our pawn, and we're also attacking the black pawn. So one thing I would note here is if black takes here, we shouldn't. I don't think we're supposed to take the pawn back with our knight or our queen here. I believe the best move for white is to push the pawn. And remember, the only one of the few times you are able to get away with moving the same piece twice in the opening. There's some exceptions, but for the most part, is when you're creating these tempos. So we have a lower value piece attacking a higher value piece. So that's why we're justified in moving this pawn again, because typically we want to avoid moving the same piece more than once in the opening, so we can get our other pieces developed. But here we are able to get away with this move because we're attacking the knight here. But anyway, black didn't go for this capture, which is they played knight takes e4, which is another good possibility. And then here Ray played knight takes e5. And then here the game started to get a bit interesting. So now we have queen to f6 by black. And the thing I wanted to point out here, because Ray missed this during the game, is we always want to be asking what's our opponent's threat, right? So here Ray missed that we have the knight and queen both attacking the f2 pawn. So here Ray just played queen to h5, which totally misses the black threat, which it happens. But I do want you guys to start getting focused on like what's my opponent's threat, right? So this threat should be a bit straightforward for you guys. I know that you guys are still like definitely in your learning phase, as we all are, but like kind of in like the beginning to intermediate stages of your learning phase. But I do think that like when your opponent just like makes a move, we should be able to see like what that piece is attacking. I think at this point. So just be mindful that here we have two pieces attacking the f2 square, and we only have one defender. So I think there's probably a few options for white here. Like we could offer a queen trade for one with queen f3, and then if the queen takes, we could take back with the knight. That's definitely possible. We could even take back with the pawn here. I would be hesitant to make a move like this because we are weakening our pawn structure quite a bit. The benefit is though that we are creating a tempo on the knight. And if you don't want to initiate a queen trade as white, I think that's also totally understandable. So it seems to me like the last option would probably be bishop to e3. Just developing a piece and protecting the pawn seems logical. We could try something also like knight to g4, which attacks the queen and protects the pawn. But for some reason, I'm just a bit distrustful that our queen doesn't, or I'm sorry, that our knight doesn't really belong here for some reason. I don't know. It feels like it's much better on the e5 square than g4. So even though we're creating a tempo when we move the knight, I don't know. I just have a feeling that the knight should stay on e5 because it's a better square on e5 than g4. And I'd also like to start like developing our other pieces. So yeah, once again, I think bishop to e3 would be quite logical here. So yeah, anyway, in the game, Ray played queen to h5, and then we had g6 from black, which if they don't. They just missed that they have queen takes f2 here. So if they don't have queen takes f2 black, then I think this g6 move is a reasonable move for black, creating a tempo, hitting the queen. So this seems fair, like a fair move. It also stops the queen from hitting the f7 pawn because black has blocked the diagonal here. So all these reasons are all these are good reasons why g6 could be played here. It does create some weaknesses on the dark squares. So this pawn on g7 was attacking these two dark squares here, or keeping them under control. Now when we moved the pawn here, we did weaken the dark square slightly. Maybe the black bishop wants to go to g7, but I don't know. It feels also to me like this bishop had a natural diagonal here, so maybe getting the bishop on this diagonal would make a bit more sense in my opinion. But okay, so g6. Queen f3, yeah, and then Ray ended up putting the queen on f3 anyway. So I'll just say, yeah, just queen f3 straight away would have been a better option. So take d5. So yeah, I really like the way that that black is playing. I know Ray had the white side. Ray's also doing some good things, but you could definitely tell that black is understanding of the concept of trying to control the center and developing your pieces. The one mistake I'd say they make is I think that g6. It's kind of confusing, like where the dark square bishop belongs now. Like, does it belong on this diagonal, or does it belong like on the d6 square and attack this diagonal? It's a bit unclear after this g6 move where the bishop should go exactly. So we have bishop to b5, and yeah, this move I don't like at all for white. So remember, we want to try to avoid allowing our opponent to get tempos. So we're giving a check, which is good, and I'm glad that you guys are seeing the forcing moves. That's all perfect and great. But here, what we're missing is we're allowing our opponent to play a move like c6, which is something they'd like to do anyway. So with the pawn on c6, they're reinforcing the d5 pawn. So now the d5 pawn is quite strong. and they're also picking up a tempo. So here they have a lower valued piece attacking a higher valued piece. So basically, the bishop is essentially forced to move again here. Say like bishop to d3, and what happened was we just gave black a free move because we could just play bishop to d3 on one turn. So the fact that we allowed our black to play c6 is just a free move. So like say they play c6 here, now it's white's turn, so white can do something. But if you play bishop to b5 and then they play c6, bishop to d3, for example, we have the same exact position. The only difference is now it's black's turn. So we just gave black a free move essentially. So we want to be we want to be really careful about that, right? So it's good that you guys are finding the forcing move once again. It's good that you're developing your pieces. That's all perfect. We just want to be a little bit more precise where we put our pieces exactly because there's no reason to allow black to get this c6 move in for free. So they're once again protecting the center. They're attacking the bishop, and that all would be beneficial for black. So luckily for us, luckily for the white side, for Ray, they didn't play c6. They played bishop to d7, which also is a reasonable move because if the white bishop takes, which I don't know what happened, I can't. The notation isn't that far advanced yet. I assume that's what Ray did. So after the bishop takes on d7, that their black's able to develop their knight, and I could tell that black has. I don't know how old black is. They could be a kid. They could be an adult. But I could tell that they have like some idea what they're supposed to be doing just from the way they played the opening, and for Ray's part also not to be too critical. I think Ray's done like a lot of really good things. It's just some. I kind of been making a point. I think it's just some like minor things that we're missing. We're not like that far away from really starting to like develop into really nice and solid chess players. But there are some of these minor things that I'm trying to point out in this video that we're still missing. That those chess is really you're trying to pick up really small advantages in chess. Like, of course, if you could pick up a huge advantage, then everyone would want that. But most of the time, when you play someone who's like somewhat decent at chess, they're not just going to give you like huge advantages for free. So you have to build up these tiny advantages over the course of a game that add up to a big advantage. And so like this bishop b5 move, I'd say that's like one of these moves that allows black some advantage already. So just stuff like that we want to be careful of. We don't want to allow our opponent to pick up tempos, right? We don't want them to attack our higher valued pieces with lower valued pieces if we can help it. All right, so here Ray castled, so excellent. So once again, I think Ray has done a lot of good things so far. He's got his king safe. He's controlling some central squares. He's got his pieces developed. So all that is good. So here we have bishop g5. And one thing I have noticed in the kids' games is that they don't seem to realize this knight can take the bishop. This seems to be a pattern that they miss a lot. Not saying it's so great for black here because if they take, we do have a defender, and now we are hitting the f7 square. I just would say to Ray, if he's watching now, or to anyone who's watching, I just want to know if you guys were aware that the knight could take, because I have seen a lot of games with the kids where they're missing this possibility. I think it's because they don't think about the pieces moving backwards very much. So every piece in chess except for the pawns can move backwards. So the knight could move backwards here and take the bishop if it wanted to. So they played f6. This is another example of a tempo move, but I don't think this one is as big of a deal as c6 because this move actually does weaken some squares. So now the e6 and the g6 square are a bit weaker for black. If we can force our opponent to play a move like f6, I don't think this is so bad for us. And our bishop isn't really like perfect on g5 anyway, so the fact that the bishop has to move isn't such a big deal. So here, so now the bishop on f4 is a perfectly fine piece. We're putting some pressure on the c7 pawn. The bishop maybe could drop back to g3 if it needs to at some point. Even though the knight could take it there, we could always recapture with one of the pawns and be perfectly fine. So bishop d6. This move from. Okay, so this move is interesting from black. So I assume their idea is if the bishop takes, the knight will take back. So this is kind of an interesting plan here from the black side. And once again, I can tell that black has a good understanding of trying to get their piece developed. So I can see that Ray is playing a pretty competent opponent in this game. Competent just means like someone who knows what to do a bit. So here we have bishop to h6. This move I'm not sure about. My first impression is that after something like g5, maybe this bishop could get trapped. So like for example, something like here, hitting the rook, hitting the pawn, but the pawn is defended twice. So something like this, and now the bishop on h6 is trapped. So yeah, I would be really worried as white putting my bishop on this h6 square. I think if you want to avoid a trade here as white, probably just something like bishop to g3 is just a much better move here. Just remember, we don't have to trade pieces in chess automatically, and which you didn't do, by the way. You did play bishop to h6. But yeah, I think if we keep the bishop on this diagonal, and if our opponent wants to take, I think this is okay for us. I don't think we're in any real danger here. Our king is actually very safe. It may look like we weakened our pawn structure slightly, which we did, but I don't think it shouldn't be a big deal, is what I'm trying to say. And now we could try to start getting our knight developed, and maybe even go for like a break in the center with c4. So those are some possible ideas. Bishop to bishop to h6. I'm a bit distrustful of this move. It feels like the bishop could get trapped over there. So f5. F5 is actually a good move for white, because now we don't have to worry about the bishop getting trapped. For example, we could play like bishop to g7 and then put the bishop on the e5 square if worst came to worst. So I think f5. I don't fully get this move from black unless their idea is to put the knight onto f6 at some point. Okay, so bishop g5, and yeah, now we're just moving the bishop way too much. So remember the concept, Ray. We don't want to move the same piece over and over again, right? We had other pieces that we need to move. Like this knight hasn't moved, and we're on move 14 already. And if you look, I think your last 3 moves have just all been bishop moves. So yeah, this is actually 4 moves, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so this is something we definitely want to avoid, Ray. We don't want to be moving the same piece over and over again. And yeah, I see that you're attacking the rook, so it does look like you're picking up a tempo. Yeah, but once again, I'm not sure. Like I think we're just moving the bishop too many times here. So now, yeah, black did a really good job of getting their knight to block the diagonal, and now this knight also does a good job of reinforcing the other knight. So yeah, I think that black has a pretty good grip on the e4 central square, and it's going to be tough for us to ever get control of this square. The only real option we have is to move this knight somewhere. Say maybe move the knight to e5 and then try to push f3. This seems like the only way I could see that we could ever try to fight for the e4 square. So c3, c5, rook d1. Yeah, rook d1 looks a bit shaky. I see that you're protecting the pawn again, but our rook is on a closed file here. So remember, we want our rooks to be on open or half open files typically. There are some exceptions, like there is for everything in chess, but generally we don't want our rook on this closed file. And we also don't want our pieces to just be defending pawns also typically. We want our pieces to have like more ambition to attack our opponent's pieces. We don't usually want them to just defend our pawns. So here we have b6, which yeah, okay, here I think that black is starting to lose the thread, meaning they're not really quite sure what to do here. I don't fully understand what b6 does. Okay, so take, knight fd2. Yeah, knight fd2 seems reasonable, I think. Also, knight b to d2. So remember, we want to get our pieces developed, so maybe moving our knight here also would make some sense. Okay, but let's go knight fd2, c4. Yeah, and c4 just totally gives up the d4 square. So I think now a reasonable plan for white might just be to come back and put the knight onto d4. So from d4, we could try to put the knight on e6 or even c6 potentially. So yeah, so c4, I guess they want to put the bishop on c5 and attack the f2 pawn. Maybe that's their idea. So take, and then yeah, here Ray was very, very alert. He noticed that he could play bishop takes d8, so he noticed that the knight on f6 was pinned. So yeah, really, really nice job from Ray in this sequence. Okay, f3, and then here also I'm wondering if we could play I think here we just play rook takes d5. So what I think is Ray might have been a little worried about bishop to c5 attacking the f2 pawn. But if we take on d5 here, we created a pin, so the bishop can't move. So I think here we're just grabbing a free pawn. But okay, so here Ray played f3, which I also think is a very reasonable move. So yeah, he's just a bit worried that this knight on the e4 square is too powerful, which I would also be a bit worried about this. So he just decides to kick the knight away. So one thing I would point out though is after f3, we have to be a bit alert that we weaken this diagonal to our king. So instead of black moving the knight right away, they could have played bishop c5 check. And then here we're still perfectly fine. We just have to be careful that we don't play king to h1. because king h1 allows this knight fork, picking up the rook for free. So we have to play. We could consider rook to d4, giving up the exchange. I don't think we want to do this though. So I think we just go king to f1 here, and then now you can see if the knight goes to f2, this doesn't accomplish anything at all. Here we'll just play the rook to d2, and now the knight is trapped. So at the very least, black is going to have to give up the knight and the bishop for our rook. And yeah, both these pieces are worth 3 points, so that's 6 points total. And our rook is worth 5 points, so that would be a good trade for white if we can give up 5 points but get 6 points in return. But yeah, black didn't see this possibility. They played knight to g5, and then yeah, really nice job by Ray, capitalizing on the free pawn. So yeah, I have to say, I mean, I think sometimes, when I evaluate your games, I want to show you guys like so much like how you can improve. But I definitely need to take like more time and just compliment you guys on what you're doing right. So I think Ray did like a ton of really good, really positive things in this game. A lot more positives than negatives. He got his pieces developed. He got his king safe. Yeah, a lot of really good things from Ray in this game. So here we have king d7, just protecting the bishop, which is a good move. Knight to d2, and then rook e8. So here probably black should try to evict the rook as quickly as possible. I think king to c6 is pretty almost forced here. Okay, so take. Okay, I was worried that Ray was going to take right away. So this is something that we should talk about. When we have a pin piece, we don't want to simplify, right? Because this bishop can't move. We want to try to build up the pressure on this piece since the piece can't move anywhere. So a much better move for white here is to play rook a to d1 and just keep attacking the pin piece. Because what happened in the game is after Ray took, after the rook takes, the rook is technically pinned, but it's not like it's a perfectly fine piece for black because it's not really a pin because it's pinned by a rook and it's also a rook itself. So anywhere that this white rook moves, the black rook can capture it. So it's not like a pin piece that can't move at all, is what I'm trying to say. It's a pin piece that can move very easily. So we don't want to release the tension too quickly. We want to try to just keep building up on this pin piece. And now we'd force black to play something like knight f7 to protect the bishop again. And maybe they can survive this okay. At the very least, we could just trade off all the pieces and go into a winning endgame. So now would be a much better time to release the pin because we are up 2 pawns and this endgame is completely winning for white. But if you want to say like, hey Ryan, you just said to us we want to build the tension up, we don't want to release the tension too soon, then maybe something like c4 here, just trying to attack the pin piece with c5 is playable. But the reason why you don't need to kind of build up the pressure now is because once again the endgame is just completely winning for white. White has this protected passed pawn. So a passed pawn is a pawn that no other pawns can stop. So we see there's no black pawn on the b file or the d file. And the reason why the passed pawn is called protected is because the b pawn's protecting it. So yeah, this is just like a monster advantage for white here. But yeah, let's go back to the game continuation. So one thing I do see is I think the kids are like when they see the possibility to capture something, they just automatically do it, which it's like a really hard instinct to fight. And sometimes like if you don't take, when you have a chance, you will regret it later. So it's not like an easy concept to explain. But if I had to say like if the kids are capturing too often or not often enough, they mostly capture like more often than they should. So like this is a good example. This bishop is pinned. It can't move. So there's really no reason to just capture it right away, right? We want to build up the attack on the pin piece. So rook a to d1 would be that would be the better move. So take. So yeah, I like rook a5. I like the fact that we're going after the isolated pawn. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is now we kind of gave the black rook some activity that we didn't need to allow. So like if we play rook to d2 right away, then the rook would take the pawn with check, and then we could protect our b pawn by either just moving it, or depending on where the black king moves, we might have this rook b7 option available. But yeah, I wouldn't. The position is just so dominant for white here. We definitely don't want to allow any counterplay if we could help it. So yeah, here they played knight f7 black, which is this is a bit of a bizarre decision because they just completely missed the threat. B4. Okay, B4 is fine. Another move I would like here for white to find is this move, just rook E1, giving another check. So remember we want to remember that we want to try to get all of our pieces into the attack. So here, and we also want to get our rooks on open files. So this would have been a good opportunity to get our rook on the open file. And now if the king's going to move anywhere, it has, in order to avoid losing the knight, it has to move to F6. Like for example, if we move the knight here, we could just take the knight for free. So yeah, so if the king goes to F6, maybe we could have considered like doubling the rooks on the seventh rank, which is quite strong. And keep in mind with the pawn on F3, there's no back rank checkmates, so something like this, our king is perfectly fine here. And also after rook E1, if they play this move knight to E5, now their knight is pinned. So here we just want to attack the pin piece with this move F4, and then we're gonna win the knight for free. So yeah, so I think rook E1, just you want to try to give your opponent chances to go wrong in chess. You want to give them an opportunity to make a mistake, and this would have been these are the type of moves that like at least if your opponent like doesn't respond properly, they could just like give up a whole piece for nothing. But B4 is also fine. Pushing the passed pawn looks very reasonable. And then G5. Okay, C4. Yeah, so nice job by Ray. So he figured out he could just start pushing the pawns, and he did. Rook C1. Okay, very nice. So here we're protecting the pawn. We're getting our rook behind the passed pawn, which we also want to do. So now we can just start pushing these pawns, and this is very difficult for black to do anything. Yeah, I really like the way that Ray played this game. Overall, it's just like a really nice game. So yeah, this check seems a bit unnecessary here. I think we just keep pushing the pawn, right? The rook actually does a good job of stopping the king from going to the seventh rank. So the king would like to kind of come back and help defend the pawns. So I don't think we need to give this check. Just your pawns are very fast, right? This pawn's only 3 squares away from becoming a queen, and it's also protected by another pawn, which is nice. So yeah, here we just push the pawn, we should be fine. Yeah, because if you see what happened here, Ray, after we give the check, we actually allowed our opponent's king to become slightly more active, which we didn't need to allow this. And okay, no big deal. I think a better move for black would have actually been king to d7 would have been even better. But okay, no problem. I don't think this ruined anything. Yeah, here I would like to have seen maybe just rook to d6, which is that's a checkmate. Okay, yeah, that's why I recommend this move. I only recommend checkmates. No, seriously though, I think rook d6 is a nice move because even if the king had somewhere to move, we could trade off the rooks, and then we could just push our pawn. And remember, we're in a position where the king is behind the pawn, so it can never really catch up. So then all we do is just push the pawn, and we don't really have to even think about what we're doing too much. Okay, b6 also pushes the pawn. Yeah, the thing that I don't like is we did allow the black rook to get behind our passed pawn. So we would like to try to avoid letting our opponent's rook get behind the passed pawn if we could. Here I think we still have this c6 possibility because if the no, never mind, we don't have this c6 possibility. I was gonna say if the knight takes, we could play rook a5 check, but that just drops the rook, so that is definitely not a good idea. So yeah, so if we allow our opponent to play this rook b4 move, we still have a little bit of work to do, which we didn't need to allow. So yeah, maybe I think pushing the c pawn is probably the better move. Yeah, and then so here we had a really simple win, I believe. We want to get our pawn to the b8 square, but if we go right away, the rook will take. So here we had this interesting possibility of just playing rook to b6, and we're fortunate that this square is protected by our pawn. Or if you don't want to say it's fortunate, just say like you planned ahead very well. That's also reasonable. So here, let's say the rook would have to take, pawn takes, and now say the knight goes to d7 to guard the queening square. So now all we need to do is get rid of this knight, and we get a queen. So the easiest way to do that is we have the king and the knight on the d file. We just give a check, and then if anywhere the king moves to protect the knight, we just take the knight. Because if the king takes our knight, we go get a queen, and the king is not able to take the pawn because the rook is protecting it. So yeah, this is just a very simple win for white here. So yeah, these are ideas that will come to it, and when the more experience you get playing chess and the more we work on these things, it's not a very obvious move to find, but just remember, like your opponent rook wants to be behind the passed pawn, and you want your rook to also be behind the passed pawn. So if you have a way of kind of putting your rook in the way of the other rook, this is just very simple. All right, so c6 was played, which is also fine. Okay, take. Okay, good. Knight takes f3 check. Okay, king f2. So yeah, your opponent's doing a somewhat decent job of finding counterplay, but the problem is it's not going to be nearly enough for them. I don't believe so, at least. So here, actually, this position is a kind of interesting. I think there's actually a draw for black here, which kind of seems hard to believe that they should have this resource, but I think they have rook to b2 check here. And now if the king goes, we're gonna look at a few variations here. So let's say the king can't move up to the third rank, which is a bit frustrating. So here we have the pawn that will capture on g3 or e3, and the knight will take on f3. So say we go g1 here, and that allows knight to f3 check. And then here, if the king goes to h1, then actually white's going to get checkmated, which is hard. Yeah, it's hard to believe that the game could turn this quickly, but that's why you always have to be alert in chess. Things could change fast. So now the king has to go back to f1. Then we give another check. Let's say we go this way this time. And now here, if we go to d1, we also get mated again, which is pretty wild. So now the king can't go to e1 because of the knight, and the king can't take the rook because of the knight as well. So yeah, here we have nothing better than to just go for a draw here. So it's just gonna be a perpetual check, which is yeah, it's pretty amazing, like how well this knight and the rook kind of trap the white king here. So so what's the advice to give you based on what just happened here? So I think the advice here is just be patient. It's not like a super easy move to find, but if you could play a rook to c2 here, just defending the second rank, there's nothing to really worry about. Like if your opponent gives a check, I think we could just play king to e2 here, and yeah, now we're fine. Like they can give another check, but now our king starts running away pretty quickly, and like after we get our king here, for example, there's our king is very safe. But yeah, this is just. It's kind of hard being a chess teacher for a situation like this, to be perfectly honest with you guys, because I don't feel like I'm really like calculating this. It's just like from so much experience and like an intuition, I just can kind of sense like where my king belongs, where it'll be safe. So I like to be able to like give you guys more of an explanation, like, hey, how do I know where my king belongs? It's just kind of like more of a feel, like knowing like how your opponent's pieces attack. And that's why, like, I think no matter who's like teaching you chess, to be honest, like if you don't put the work in and the practice in, like you're just not gonna. It's very difficult to teach you this stuff. Like we could do a lot of patterns, a lot of puzzles to learn these patterns, but it's just every position is so unique that it's not so obvious like what's the best way to explain this. And I do kind of feel like I'm not doing my job so well that I can't give you a better explanation. Like how do I know where to put my king here? But it's just like you have to learn how to calculate. Like just like where does my king belong based on where my opponent's pieces are, and that's one of the reasons why we do so many puzzles to get that pattern recognition. But we can't do pattern recognition for like every single thing in chess like right away. That's going to take some years, to be honest. But I do try to give you as much as I can. But this is one of those positions where it's not so easy for me to explain what to do exactly. So yeah, let's get back to the game continuation though. So here, here Black did miss a good opportunity, I think. Oh, they found it. Okay, so what happened here? Yeah, okay, so here they played h4. So yeah, they had a perpetual draw if they just brought the knight back to h2, but here they got a bit greedy, which that happens from time to time. So yeah, I'm kind of curious what goes on next. Okay, bishop. Yeah, that move is just I can't I don't have any words for that, Ray. Like we should get a queen here, right? Why are we ever getting a bishop in this situation? I don't there's nothing I could even really teach here, I don't think. Like, just why not just get a queen, right? We want to get our most valuable piece that we can. So this should be very, very straightforward. Just get a queen here. I don't really have any words for this. And yeah, now the king is actually getting much safer. So I think I would prefer Black here. I think Black is very close to winning, and they have this like perpetual check at the very least. So yeah, I don't really know what I would do as White here. So I have this check again. Okay, rook h2. Yeah, this move. This is a really bad move here. So the idea, I think, is they're trying to bring their king here, bring the rook here. My apologies, and take the rook. But after the pawn queens, now the queen's protecting the rook, so this isn't going to work. Okay, so nice check. Another possibility was to play rook to a3. Also looks pretty reasonable to me. And then, or even like, probably queen to c3 is even the easiest move to find here. And yeah, I think from here we're perfectly fine as white. But I think queen e8 shouldn't spoil much either. So now you give up the rook. Okay, so yeah, I don't think this is a big deal because we are up a lot of material as white. But I don't see why we should give up the rook here. We don't need to do that. I don't think. Rook c3. Yeah, that's an excellent move. So now we're starting to get our pieces coordinated in the attack. So when we have all these pieces, right, we want to try to use them all if we can. Even this bishop, which should be a queen. So this bishop's really bothering me, Ray. It should definitely be a queen here. All right, but no problem. So king e4. Okay, another check. Yeah, and here we want to get more pieces in the attack, right? When you attack, you want to bring. There's an expression like bring the kitchen sink. You want to bring everything, right? You want to attack with everything that you can. So here we want to at least get the rook involved. We probably have an even better move like probably just queen to d3 check. Picking up the knight also is simple. But I do want to get you guys in the habit. Like there's so many winning variations for white at this point. But I do want to get you in the habit of when you're attacking, try to find ways to attack with as many pieces as you can. Yeah, so this move I will be critical of. So here we're trying to attack. Like we don't want to give black a free move here. There's no reason to. Like I see that you want to put the rook over here and go checkmate the king, which is good. But there's no reason to allow like any trickery moves for black here. So like now you're allowing this check, for example. Like it doesn't do anything in this position. It's not like such a huge deal here. But you could wind up in a position easily where it is a big deal. So yeah, I don't really like this quiet move at all of rook to a7. Yeah, if we're gonna do anything like that's not a check, we should just take the knight here. That seems like the cleanest move to me. Besides just giving a check here, I think if you want to develop the rook, like rook to a5 seems also quite good to me. And after rook a5, we're forcing I guess the king could go to f6, but say it goes to the g file. Now we could start getting a bit more active with our queen. So yeah, so let's when we're attacking, you want to be very precise, just as precise as you would be when you're defending. So rook a7, king g4. Okay, that's a good check. Okay, good. And then we got checkmate. Okay, very nice job, Ray. So yeah, all in all, I think the game was very good. There's definitely some things we need to work on, of course, which I could say that for everyone, myself included. But I think for the most part, the game was quite good. The one thing that I do want to point out is that you did miss this queen takes f2 idea. So I want to bring up this point in the game again. Like, be careful, right? Like your opponent moved the queen to f6. They're attacking the f2 pawn, so there's two attackers. So I want you to be like a bit more aware of what your opponent's threats are, because you could have easily just been like totally lost like right out of the opening, and that would be pretty frustrating, right? There's no reason to lose a chess game so quickly, especially with the white pieces. So like I don't know what the best move is. I mean, I think we could play like queen takes d4 here, and then if they block, we have. Yeah, I guess we do have to be a little bit careful about the f7 square, but I don't know. Maybe I probably misplayed this already, to be honest. But something like this, we're still okay. But I think we missed something a bit better here. But yeah, just be careful of your opponent's threats. So I think this is stuff that we should see. We should be able to spot that our opponent played queen f6 and their threat was to take on f2, and that's one of the reasons why during class time I always make a point to remind you guys that f2 and f7 are the weakest squares on the chessboard, because only the king's protecting it. So yeah, I would like for you guys to start just keep asking yourself, after your opponent moves, what's their threat? Like, why did they move their piece there? And just asking that like simple question will really improve what you spot during a chess game. Anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, Ray. And I did want to encourage you guys to play some puzzle battle. So yeah, once again, if you don't know how to get there, just put your mouse over this the puzzle piece and then click on the puzzle battle and just start playing. And yeah, the more puzzles you guys are able to do during the week, outside of class time, I think the quicker you'll improve. Chess is a game of pattern recognition, so the more patterns you know, just the better chess players you guys will be. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you guys got some use out of it and you enjoyed it. And yeah, really nice job, Ray. I've been impressed with your improvement. Sometimes I get a bit impatient. I want you guys to like be super grandmasters in a couple of weeks, and that's obviously like not at all realistic. But the progress is very noticeable to me, And it's just these like small things that we have to keep working on, and it'll take some time. I think it'll probably take another 6 months before all this stuff like really sinks in. But it will. Once it sinks in, you'll never forget it, and then you can start like building into even more complex concepts. And that's kind of the pattern of any chess player. You just keep trying to build and keep trying to get like just a little bit better than you were the day before, and over the course of many years or many months or whatever, the improvement will be pretty obvious. So yeah, thanks for the thanks for allowing me to go over the game, everyone, and I hope you guys enjoyed. All right, thank you.